any money into them yet. They're in the back of my mind. I haven't done it yet. I need to. I think that's the REITs in this sector. Not really a bad play because, well, like the old adage goes, land, they're not making any more of it unless you're a Chinese island, I guess. So, getting into this space through IIPR or Power REIT, not a bad way to go. I mean, I own IIPR. I am probably going to look at some of this Power REIT, the PW, this coming week. Maybe get me a little position going. It's a decent price. And being a REIT, it's eventually going to have to give out a dividend. So we don't know what that is yet. I'm going to do some research and maybe come back with an amount if they're giving out a dividend yet. All right, let's look over this article titled "The Week in Cannabis: Big Tobacco MSO Goes to Europe, Mexico, DC, and More." This comes to us from our friends at Benzinga. Came out Friday, 4:48 p.m. Eastern Time. Looks like Curaleaf, CURLF on the OTCQX, agreed to acquire one of Europe's largest cannabis companies, EMMAC Life Sciences, EMAC, for approximately $286 million in cash and stock. The transaction is expected to close during the second quarter of 2021. Makes Curaleaf one of the first U.S. multi-state operators to expand in Europe. Hey, there we go. Good job, Curaleaf. Next up, Silver Spike Acquisition Corp. On the NASDAQ, it is SPKBU. Made its debut on the NASDAQ capital market, disclosing the pricing of its initial public offering of some 25 million of its units at $10 per unit. In addition, tobacco giant British American Tobacco plc, that would be found as BTI on the New York Stock Exchange, opted to invest 221 million Canadian dollars, 175 million in U.S., in Organigram Holdings Incorporated, OGI, on the NASDAQ. It now owns 19.9% equity interest in an Organigram subsidiary. The goal is to establish a center of excellence dedicated to the development of cannabis products with a focus on CBD. All right, so that's what British American Tobacco is doing with Organigram. Looks like the ETFs this week had a really good week. The Alternative Harvest ETF, MJ, was up a little over 13%. Advisors Pure Cannabis ETF, YOLO, Y-O-L-O, up 11.5%. Advisors Shares Pure U.S. Cannabis ETF, MSOS, was up 4.8%. The Cannabis ETF, THCX, was up 16.2%. Nice. The Amplify Seymour Cannabis ETF was up 13.9%. That's CNBS on the New York Stock Exchange. All right, so the ETFs kind of made back some ground that they lost last week. That's a good thing. I've been in and out of quite a few of those ETFs. It's a good way to play if you don't want to do the single stock thing. You get exposure to it. And, kind of for the long-term thing, the ETFs are a good way to go. I've looked at them all, but not, with a fine-tooth comb. So let's move on here. Looks like the U.S. Department of Agriculture's USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack approved a federal rule outlining the hemp industry's regulations poised to take effect on March 22nd. All right. Washington, D.C. lawmakers are preparing for the possibility of a legal adult use market in the city. The Government Accountability Office published a letter Monday stating that the city officials are allowed to take preliminary action on cannabis so long as they don't enact a bill to legalize the Schedule I substance. And like we spoke about earlier, south of the border, Mexico's lower chamber passed a revised version of the cannabis legalization bill. It is now up to the Senate, which has passed a previous version of the bill in the 2020, to vote on the amendments. If approved, it would then head to bill supporter and President Andrés Manuel López Obrador for final approval. That's some interesting news. Gotta love that. Real quickly, run down through some finances and M&As. Verano Holdings Corp, VRNO, on the Canadian Stock Exchange raised 100 million Canadian dollars via a bought deal private offering. Alifa Health Incorporated, ALEAF, on the OTCQX clinched a $22.7 million via a previous announced bought deal offering. Weed MX Incorporated, WDDMF, OTCQX, secured $17.25 million in financing through a bought deal short form prospectus offering of its units. Australia's Capital Incorporated, OTCQB, AUSAF, on the OTC, it is AUSAF, agreed to buy cannabis company Green Therapeutics LLC in a deal worth $6.4 million US. Kerna Corp, NASDAQ, KERN, agreed to acquire fellow cannabis business venture firm Viridian Sciences in an all-stock transaction. The terms of the deal were not disclosed. Innovative Industrial Properties Incorporated purchased a Texas-based property for roughly $3.4 million. Cresco Labs, OTCQX, CRLBF, is on its way to take over Bluma Wellness Incorporated, OTCQX, BMWLF, in an all-share transaction worth $213 million, expected to close during the second quarter of 2021. Harborside Incorporated, OTCQX, HBORF, backed up a California-based cannabis company, LPFJV LLC, with $5 million, completing a strategic investment in LoudPack via 15% secured convertible note that's due December 2022. High Times Holding Corporation will buy a cannabis dispensary, Desert's Finest, in a $6.2 million deal. AeroPay raised more than $5 million in venture round led by Chicago Ventures. 180 Intermediaries, a brokerage insurance solutions provider, acquired cannabis insurance provider CanAssure Insurance Services. Santa Fe Farms acquired high-grade hemp seed for undisclosed price. Santa Fe Farms' expertise in industrial hemp was a major factor for high-grade. Michael Alder, high-grade CEO, told Benzinga, "We're excited to expand in the sector while also staying focused on our core competency in cannabinoids. This is a win-win for both companies." Aurora Cannabis on the NASDAQ, you can find that as ACB, put one of its cannabis cultivation greenhouses up for sale. While the Canadian cannabis giant hasn't set the asking price yet, management said it is open to a broad range of potential transaction structures in forms of consideration in order to maximize value. All right, a few things to talk about in the earnings report. You should keep an eye out for Acreage Holdings, OTCQX, ACRDF on the OTCQX. Curaleaf is coming out with earnings, CURLF on the OTCQX. Air Wellness Incorporated, AYRWF, OTCQX. Doesn't say when they're actually coming out with them, but these are earnings reports from this past week. Okay, a few other things of notice here to talk about. EYBNA is how you spell that name. A terpene manufacturer based in California and Israel is expanding its U.S. footprint with opening of a new R&D center in Denver, Colorado. This joint venture with ASEPAC and dedicated to OS to the invention of cannabis-infused consumer packaged goods. EYBNA is the name of this company, this terpene manufacturer. Elevate Holistics expanded into New Jersey and Ohio. More states are expected to come online soon. South Dakota saw the debut of the Cannabis Industry Association of South Dakota. Grow Generation Corporation on the NASDAQ, that is GRWG, entered 2 leases in Los Angeles County, California, which will be adapted for the company's 2 new super hydroponic garden centers. The details of the leases weren't disclosed. Tilray, NASDAQ TLRY, received approvals from New Zealand's Ministry of Health and the Medicinal Cannabis Agency for the launch of its medicinal cannabis products. Green Thumb Industries OTCQX GTBIF debuted in California, bringing its retail footprint to 11 states. All right, so that wraps up pretty much this show. A Saturday recap of kind of what's happened this week. Catching you up to date on Friday's late press releases. Thank you for listening. Good luck in all your research and investing. I sincerely hope you enjoyed the show. Please remember we have a social media platform. Feel free to reach out and say hello. I'd love to hear from you. What you're into, what you're trading right now, what you're researching. Give us a follow. Give us a like. We will see you again. This is getting to be a regular thing for me. Once again, this is the Johnny Fongo Show. I'm Johnny Fongo. Have a profitable day.